So the temperature officially dropped below like 80 degrees, which means it's spooky season, so it's time to play on my TBR. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is October. If this is your first time here, welcome. If not, welcome back. This is Nerd Boy Reads, a channel in which I talk about all of the things that I want to read or have been reading, and today we're going to talk about my autumn TBR. I'm trying to make this a more regular thing on my channel in which I set a seasonal TBR and try to read a bunch of stuff within that season. So today we're going to be talking about my autumn TBR, which I believe spans from September to this mid-November or end of November time period. So I have set a bunch of stuff on my TBR and I'm just going to run through them with you really quick. I do read a lot of horror around this time. I'm not one of those people who just read horror during October, but I do have a lot of horror on my TBR because it is spooky season and because Halloween is around the corner and I read a lot of horror around that time. But I'm not one of those people who just read horror in October, but I do stack a lot more horror in October than I normally do. So we're just going to go through everything in no particular order, and we're just going to talk about it. We're going to start things off with the book that I have been trying to get to for the past like 2 or so years, and that is Lost Gods by Brom. Everyone has been talking about Brom recently because his book Slewfoot came out, I believe it was a year or two ago, but I've decided that I'm not going to buy that book until I finally read Lost Gods. And Lost Gods is about a man who just gets out of jail and realizes that he gets stuck in the middle of this ancient battle thing. He must find a key to keep his wife and unborn son safe. It gives off a lot of Neverwhere vibes by Neil Gaiman, except Brom always bends his stuff more toward horror, while Neil Gaiman bends his stuff more towards fantasy. So this is definitely going to be spooky. I don't know if you know Brom, you probably do, but Brom always adds images to his works. He always adds a bunch of pictures. He's an artist as well as an author, so he incorporates his own art pieces into his books. And I read The Child Thief and Krampus by him. They're both by far like 2 of my favorite books ever, so I have no doubt that Lost Gods is going to be another one of my favorites. I just haven't gotten to it, but I'm definitely going to get to it this year, and I can't wait to read it. Then we gotta slap a classic on here because I have never read it anymore. I just read Frankenstein, I believe it was last year, if not the year before, but I have never read Dracula by Bram Stoker, so this is gonna be something I read now. I am subscribed to Dracula Daily, so I've kind of been getting the story that way, and I did see The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and I am aware that Dracula Daily is putting together a book that is just like how they send out the emails, but I want to read the classic first because I never did that. And I feel like since it is told in the way that it is, with letters and journal entries and news reports, that it's gonna be a pretty quick read. The only thing that I have to do is make sure that my brain is adjusted to read classics because it's kind of hard for me to if I'm not in the correct mindset. But I am really looking forward to reading this, and I'm gonna this year, so. And then keeping on the vampire track, I'm going to finally read the Slayer Chronicles trilogy. This is the spin-off sequel series to the Chronicles of Vladimir Tod, which I read in about high school, I believe. And I'm finally going to get to this one. I read this first one actually because my friend loaned it to me back in high school when I was obsessed with the series. And she gave this copy to me, and then I picked up the other 2 books because I didn't know it was a trilogy, but it's going to be a quick read because it is just a young adult. The words are really big, so this should be quick to get through, and the books get progressively thinner as they go along. I just realized that I haven't told you what this book is about. This book, as it implies, is about a vampire slayer. His name is Joss, with the 2 S's, and we meet him in the Chronicles of Vladimir Tod. I don't remember which book, it's been a while, but he got his own spin-off series, and I do remember reading it. I don't remember what it's about. I wrote a book report on it in like 9th grade, and the fact that I'm finally getting to it now is kind of making me nervous because I'm worried that it might not hold up. Does that make sense? I do plan on doing a reread for the Chronicles of Vladimir Tod eventually. I just want to get my TBR down a bit more, but I'm going to start by getting back in the mindset with the Slayer Chronicles. So it's a 3-book series. I should be able to get to it real quick, and the words are really big. It's a young adult. I'm not worried about it. Next two are new releases from authors that I know I loved before, and we're just gonna go in the order that they have been released or are releasing. So the first book is the next book by Andrew Joseph White. I believe it is called The Spirit Bears Its Teeth or something like that. I'm holding up Hell Followed With Us because this is my introduction to Andrew Joseph White, and it was fantastic. So I'm very looking forward to reading The Spirit Bears Its Fangs. It is another book about a trans person going through religious trauma, so I'm starting to sense a pattern with Joseph White here. Not that I'm complaining, because it is a fantastic thing to talk about, and the writing style is fantastic. The character development, the horror elements in it. It is young adult, but the way that they craft horror is fantastic. They're not afraid to like shy away from the more graphic elements, but keep it within the intended age range, and I find that spectacular. It's like PG-13 horror, but bumped up to like where it's nearing R, you get me? So I look forward to reading this. I can't wait to get it. It's already out. If you read Hell Followed With Us and want to get more into Andrew Joseph White's writing, it's already out. The cover is just as stunning as this one. This is initially what drew me to this book. I got it. I loaned it to my friend. No, my friend got it, and then they also loved it, and we're both looking forward to reading the next one, so that's what we're gonna do. Then on the complete opposite end of the horror cozy spectrum, we have the prequel to Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I don't remember what it was called, but it's coming out in the end of September, so I'm gonna snag it around that time. It's about the origins of how Viv got into coffee and coffee making, and it's another cozy, low-stakes fantasy series which I am falling in love with. Recently I have been in like a slice of life, cozy, comfy mindset. I've been reading a lot of comedy, romance, slice of life manga, so I'm trying to get more into that in books, even though this is far from like daily life. This is definitely high fantasy, but there are no stakes. It's just coffee and getting to know your friends and vibing, and I cannot wait to read this. I can't wait to get my hands on the prequel. Yeah, I don't have it yet, otherwise I would hold it up. I don't have an arc, but I do have this, so yeah. Then we have a couple of middle grades. I'm going to hold them up in the order I obtained them. So this is The Halloween Moon by Joseph Fink. This is about a girl who loves Halloween and then has to go on a mini adventure of trying to save Halloween or save her family. Since it is a middle grade, it is going to be really quick to read. The words are relatively big. It's relatively thin, but I'm probably going to end up reading this on or about Halloween. Probably like give myself a 2 or 3 day buffer before Halloween to read this. And yeah, it's a middle grade. It's good. I seem to be on a mission to collect all podcast authors' books because I like the podcast, so I support them by buying their books. I have all of the Night Vale books and script books, and I have the what is it called? It's somewhere up here. You Feel It Just Below the Ribs, which is another Night Vale book, and then you're going to see later I have a book from one of the voice actors in the Magnus Archives, so I'm just kind of on a podcast-y mood, but this has nothing to do with anything in the podcast. It's just a nice little Halloween jaunt, and I'm going to read it on Halloween. And then the next book is actually a series. I have the first 3 books in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. This is about a girl in high school who meets a detective with a skull for a head, and they go on shenanigans. That's all I know. It's a middle grade mystery series. It gives off Halloween vibes. The dude has a skull for a head. I heard it in passing once, so here I am with the first 3 books. As always, I hear about it, I get infected, it wiggles in my brain, and then I have it, and I'm excited to read it. It's another one of those where like the words are really big. It's a middle grade, so I can probably blow through it in about a day. I'm probably gonna not read this just yet because I'm gonna try to finish up some series before I start some more, but it's a middle grade. There's about like 10 books in the series, so I'm kind of worried about it, but I'm also not because it's a middle grade. I think I'm more concerned about shelf space, actually. But I'm excited to read this, and I'm going to read it. Next, I'm going to talk about the 2 series that I want to finish before I start another one. And the first one is a duology. This is Immortality, a love story by Jana Schwartz. This follows, what is her name? Hazel, as after she gets cursed with immortality by one of the doctors she looked up to, and she gets arrested after doing something, and then stuff ensues and hijinks and grave robbing, hopefully. Well, spoiler for the ending, the grave robber kind of got it, and we're not sure his status as of yet, so hopefully we get answers in this book. I don't think that there's another one coming out. I haven't seen it announced. I haven't checked on Goodreads on it in a while. But the grave robbing aspects, the immortality aspect, she is a Victorian era doctor, which is a vibe in itself, but it also gives off very, very Halloween-y vibes because that's kind of traumatic, and a lot of the bad medical stuff that you see around Halloween, like the decor, really gives off Victorian era medicine vibes because it's not regulated, it's not clean, it's very gross, and it's just a vibe. It's a Halloween vibe. It is young adult, so there's only so far they can go with it, but I did end up loving Anatomy, which is the first book to this series, and I want to read this before I start Skullduggery Pleasant, and I'm going to. I am ecstatic to get back into this world. I'm ecstatic to get back into the vibes, the mindset. Victorian era medicine is kind of a hyperfix for me. I read a nonfiction book about it, and then I read this, and then it's always on my brain, so the fact that I haven't read this yet is kind of a shame, but I was waiting to find it used, and I finally did, so now I can read it this year. And then the next series I want to finish before I start another one is the James Lovegrove Holmes series. It's actually apparently on Goodreads. They changed it to being a trilogy and then 3 separate books. So like these are not a part of this anymore, even though the last time I was on Goodreads I swore it was like it. I'm not just hallucinating, but they separated them, and they have another one of these coming out, so I'm excited to read about that. But before that, I'm going to finally read the Sherlock Holmes and the Miscantic Monstrosities. I know I butchered that word, but it's okay because I'm pretty. And then I'm also going to read Sherlock Holmes and the 3 Winter Terrors and Sherlock Holmes and the Beast of Stapleton. So I'm going to finish this series, or at least get as far as I can, because I cannot find the last book in it, which is the Sussex Sea Devils, and the fact that I can't is kind of driving me up a wall, but hopefully I can find it soon. But I'm definitely going to read these, all of them. I may save this one for winter simply because it is winter based, but I definitely am at least going to read these 2 before I start anything else. So I'm gonna wrap up this series. I don't know if I told y'all what this is about. Okay, so this is about Sherlock Holmes, and with Lovecraftian elements like Cthulhu, the concept of like elder gods, eternity, mind-warping horrors, just cosmic terror. And the way the author James Lovegrove writes this stuff, it blends together so well. It's a Sherlock Holmes retelling, and this is the year of Sherlock Holmes retellings, so I'm definitely going to finish this. This is fantastic. I adored the first one. It was definitely grittier and grimier than the original Sherlock Holmes, and a lot of people complained about that, but I loved it. It's like the real accounts of Sherlock Holmes, and it's fantastic. If you haven't dug into this series, please do. Find it any way you can, because it's starting to seem like they're out of print. I'm hoping they'll do a reprint of the Sussex Sea Devils when the 4th book comes out. Otherwise, I'm just gonna cry. And then I don't know what these 2 are about. I believe this, it says the continuing story of the Hounds of Baskerville. So I'm assuming this is just kind of like a spin-off continuation of the Hounds of Baskerville, which I haven't read. And then I have no idea what this is about, but I'm still gonna read them. Well, at least this one. Who knows? And after I read all of those, I'm gonna read the Thursday Murder Club. Fall, autumn time always gives me a mood to go into murder mysteries. I don't know why. It's like a lot of people get in the mood for dark academia around this time. I get in the mood for murder mysteries, and I have plenty of those. I have way more Sherlock Holmes retellings than I know what to do with. This is not one of them. This is about a group of old men who live in a retirement home, and they solve cold cases in their on Thursdays. It's like an activity to get them up and get them moving and get them together. And all of a sudden, people start dying in this retirement home that they live in. So they take it upon themselves to figure out why people are dying. Really popular right now, and that usually doesn't impact my wanting to get into this series, but there is another one coming out soon, so I am really excited to get into this series and see how this goes on, because I adore books about older people getting back into the swing of things. One of my favorite books is Kings of the Wild, which is a high fantasy about a group of older men who have to get back together and do the thing that they did when they were younger. And this is kind of giving me the same vibes, just in a murder mystery thriller setting instead of a high fantasy setting. So I'm very excited to go into this and finally get into it. I have the first 3 books, and I'm gonna read Sherlock Holmes before I read this and just keep the good murder mystery vibes flowing. After that, I may pick up some more Sherlock Holmes retelling, but who knows, because I have plenty of those. I'm just not gonna hold them up. But this one's definitely going to get read. I'm very excited for it. Words are tiny, but that's fine. It's very floppy too. Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, I don't think I need to go into this. I think a lot of people have read it. If you like murder mysteries, this is definitely going around like Bookstagram. I don't know if it's on BookTok because I don't have TikTok, but it has definitely been on BookTube for a while. So I don't think I need to go into any more details about it, but I'm gonna finally read it. I'm probably the last one to read it, and yeah. Then we have the other podcaster book I was talking about. This is 13 Stories by Jonathan Sims. I can't tell you anything about this book, if we're being quite honest, other than Jonathan Sims wrote it, and I love the Magnus Archives, so obviously I have to support him in all of his endeavors. So it's a horror book. Apparently it's a murder in a dinner party? I don't know. I'm just gonna read it. The vibes are there. What else do I need to say, really? I'm not gonna say anything because I can't, because I don't have much to say about it because I don't know what it's about, but Jonathan Sims! And then the next few books we have are just a bunch of stray standalone, so I'm just gonna grab this one at random. This is Ghost Radio by Leopoldo Gout. This is about a ghost radio station who is basically a station for people to come in or call in and talk about the varying ghost stories they have, the things that scare them, talk about their experiences with the paranormal, the creepy, the ooky, the spooky, and all of a sudden they start experiencing like hijacking, haunting stuff, I believe, and it's a haunting in a radio station, and I am all about it. I am a huge fan of Welcome to Night Vale, obviously, and while this doesn't give off like major Welcome to Night Vale vibes, I'm not going to compare the two. I think there's something about like a radio station where a lot of batshit stuff happens that gives off Welcome to Night Vale vibes, and I think that's what initially drew me to it, so I'm really looking forward to reading it. It feels like it could be one of my next favorite books just by the vibes alone, and I hope it doesn't disappoint me. So this is probably going to something I'm going to be slapping onto my October TBR, and it's just going to stay there, and I'm excited to read it. I guess we're keeping up with the ghost in the title. This is Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is about a group of people who take pills to see the ghosts and the spirits of their dead loved ones, and that's all I need to know about it. One of the people who works at the Barnes & Noble that I go to recommended it and sung its praises, and it was on the buy one get one half off table, and that's all I needed to know. I just saw Talk to Me. Spoilers, if you saw Talk to Me, this gives off major Talk to Me vibes, so I'm excited. I love Talk to Me. We support A24 in this house because they support the writers' strike and the actors' strike, and they actually follow their demands and stuff, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. But this gives off major Talk to Me vibes. It's oh my gosh, these words are so tiny. These words are so tiny. Look at that. It's not focusing. But I'm excited to get into it, and definitely going to be on my October TBR. This last one that we have is a book that I recently put on my self-destruct in 6 months video. This is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. This is a brick. This is a brick. There is no way around it. I'm probably going to have to just spread it across. Was that an image? I think I saw a picture. Yeah, there is. There's pictures in here. Wow. I didn't know that. Anyway, yeah, this is I'm probably going to have to start this now or really soon and just spread it across the entirety of autumn if I want to get through it, because it is well over 700 pages. 800 pages. This is over 800 pages. This is probably going to be one of the biggest books that I have ever taken on. I am still kind of plugging through To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini, and that I don't believe is as long as this. So it's kind of scary if we're being quite honest. So hopefully I can plug through it. It definitely has autumn vibes. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what it's about at all. But it gives off autumn vibes based on the name and what everyone else has been saying about it. So that's why I'm picking it up. I've been meaning to read it for a while. You can't see it very well on camera, but the pages are yellow because of how long I've just held on to it and I haven't read it yet. And that's going to change this year. I'm going to try to read it. It's very big. The words are very small, but I'm intimidated, but I'm going to try to read it. I'm going to throw out some honorable mentions that I'm going to try to get to before fall is up. The Deep by Nick Cutter. I have read both The Troop and Little Heaven by Nick Cutter, and I got my hands on The Deep, so I'm gonna try to plug through that this year. He's a great horror author. He really knows how to get into like gross horror, body horror, religious horror. The Deep is about ocean horror, and I'm already scared of the ocean, so that's right up my alley. He also wrote the Saturday Night Ghost Club. I don't have that one, but I'm probably going to end up with my hands on it eventually. If I can get through at least half of what I have here, I'll let myself pick it up and read that for Halloween. Babel, I finally picked that one up. I'm going to try to sneak that in there because Dark Academia, and while I don't really see autumn as Dark Academia personally, I'll slap it on there to satisfy all the other Dark Academia girlies. I have a bunch of other Sherlock Holmes retellings that I can't name off the top of my head, but I do want to get to them, so maybe autumn, since it is murder mystery time for me, I'll just put them on and I'll read those as I can. I have the Invisible Library series, the entirety of that, and while I am going to try to get through a bunch of other series, maybe if I get through enough of them, I will pick it up and start it and hopefully get through it soon. That's about it. I have the Monsters of Verity series by V.E. Schwab, and since I just reread Vicious, I'm kind of in the mood for that, so maybe I'll pick that up. That's all I can name off the top of my head. I'm trying to look at my TBR, but a lot of them are hidden, so who knows? That is it for this video. I'm sorry for the delay. I have been caught in a mixture of working way too late and way too long and having my mental health be like, you're not going to do that. Executive dysfunction and all of that. Same old excuses, I know, but it's the truth. I'll try to get better scheduling later. Follow me on Instagram at NerdBoyReads. I am definitely more active there. I plan for October on doing a post a day about varying spooky books and based on creatures and all that stuff. So if you want that, look out for that. I just post a bunch of random pictures on Instagram, so follow me there if you want more of me posting and talking about books. I think the next video I'm gonna do is a review about Vicious because I just read it and I have a lot of thoughts. It's probably not going to be a long video, for being quite honest, but I just have thoughts and would die for Victor Vale, and it just reawakened in me why I would. So, who knows? This is it. It's been the video. I've been October. This has been Nerd Boy Reads. I hope to see you in the next one. I hope that it's not this late of a video, and that's it. Goodbye!